You know, trying to find a good build for your main feels a lot like learning how to cook. The best way you can start is by following the basic recipes you can find online, and then slowly personalizing it a bit more each time you make it until you've got yourself the most perfect meal. As you slowly progress, meal by meal, you'll eventually learn what basic ingredients you tend to enjoy the most. I've gone through dozens of unknown builds, trying all kinds of different wacky ideas, but in my experimentation, I found a single perk that I've started including in almost every single build. It's genuinely to the point where every build I run on Unknown has this perk in it, purely because of how much this single perk brings to the table. Starting to feel a little unfair, I'm gonna be honest. So hold on, let's take it back. What is the secret sauce of a perk? It's Friends to the End. If that name doesn't ring a bell, I don't blame you, as it's a bit of a niche perk. For those of you who don't know what this perk is, it's one of Chucky's teachables, and, yeah, it does a lot, so we're gonna have to break this down bit by bit. I mean, there are killer powers with smaller descriptions than this, so let's get into this. Although, you should probably strap yourself in. Things get a little intricate. So intricate that I wrote an almost 500-word paragraph on this perk alone in a nondescript Google document that will be of absolutely no interest to you once it eventually goes public. So yeah, here we go. When you hook a survivor who isn't the obsession, Friends to the End will make the obsession exposed for 20 seconds and you'll see their aura for 10. The exposed part is obvious. As a character who can teleport across the map in less than 2 seconds, you can oftentimes catch the obsession in a bad position by teleporting to them and downing them. However, there's more this exposed can do for you, even if you choose not to go after the obsession or if they're not near a husk. The threat of this exposed status forces the obsession to play incredibly carefully once they know Friends to the End is in play. So they'll avoid cleansing husks while you carry a survivor to not risk getting teleported on if they know they're about to get exposed. And Chase, if they are exposed, they'll play incredibly safe, dropping pallets and burning through their exhaustion like there's no tomorrow. Outside of Chase, they will instead try to stick to safer areas, meaning they're going to sit in the middle of the strongest loop they can find, and if there's not a generator there, guess what? They're not doing a generator! They will also avoid going for unhooks while exposed, meaning if you find another survivor quickly after hooking someone, you'll have one survivor on hook, one in chase, one cowering across the map, and one final survivor faced with the dilemma of either getting off gens to go for a save, or risk letting their friend stay on hook for an extended amount of time. As for aura reveal, for one, this obviously gives you information about the obsession's current whereabouts and activities. This can help you chase them down or let you get an unexpected UVX hit via something unconventional like orbitals or floor bangs. When you factor in the 2 seconds it takes to teleport, there's still 8 seconds, which is more than enough time with this aura to pull off some kind of tricky mind game or catch out a survivor who's trying to hide out Friends to the End. But this has another benefit. If the obsession has distortion, this aura is guaranteed to burn a full stack. But if you pair it with Lethal Pursuer, the aura reveal becomes just long enough to burn an extra stack of distortion, meaning every time you hook a survivor, the obsession loses 2 distortion stacks. This can help make distortion feel a little less oppressive if you're running an aura-centric build, and it's worth noting. Before we keep going on with the perk, I'd like to ask y'all for a huge favor. I have a few video ideas I'd love to make involving other creators, but I'm kind of unsure about how to reach out and actually start conversations with them. So before I do, I'd really like to ask y'all this favor of going and following my Twitter if you're willing. Having a decent-sized Twitter following seems to be a huge help in making a good first impression when reaching out to other creators, so I'd appreciate any help I can get. In return, I'm going to start posting mini guides on things like lineups and cool perk synergies that aren't quite worth making a full-length YouTube video on, so all around, it's a win-win. Also, I'm currently doing an Eyrie of Crows only challenge on Twitch, so if you want to learn how to make that map not miserable for the unknown, consider popping in at some point. I'm sorry for the shameless plugs, it won't become a habit, I swear. Now back to the video. So what happens when the obsession is hooked? Once the obsession is hooked, another random survivor is chosen to be the obsession, and they scream. They won't be exposed until you hook another survivor, but even without the exposed, this effect is way better than it sounds. Starting with the scream. Like all screams, it interrupts actions, and considering that the safest time to cleanse shedlings is while Jerry is carrying a survivor to a hook, most smart survivors will try and cleanse as many of your shedlings as possible while you're hooking someone. If they're a bit slow or greedy with this, however, the scream may interrupt their actions, weakening them and revealing their location, even if they have Calm Spirit thanks to the Killer Instinct. If they get interrupted by this perk, you can teleport to them, M1 them, then immediately down the survivor with a follow-up UVX shot, effectively giving you an insta-down even though they weren't exposed. The Scream also gives you a chance to find any pesky Distortion or Shadow Step users, and anything to screw over Distortion is a great thing in my opinion. However, there is something that I need to mention, just a little caveat about using this perk. If the randomly selected survivor is in a locker, it will prevent them from becoming the obsession. This does sound like a downside, but sometimes you can actually turn this around and make it an advantage. If you can find some evidence of where the survivor was before they hid, maybe by a gen no longer regressing, a pool of blood, a startled crow, whatever, you know that you need to search lockers nearby. It's hard to explain, but with enough use of this perk, you'll slowly build up an understanding of how this perk works, how survivors play against it, and you'll almost have like a sixth sense as to whenever a survivor's in a locker, where they'll probably be. And let me tell you, if you want to get accused of being a cheater, this is the best way to do it. All in all, this perk just works so incredibly well with the Unknown, it's genuinely incredible. The Unknown is already a killer with very high snowball potential, but with everything discussed earlier, Friends to the End takes that snowball potential and cranks it up to 11. The best part is, it does all of these effects in a single perk slot, meaning it's very easy to slot this into almost any build you run. And truth be told, I think that's the real strength of Friends to the End. The reliable info, the instant down potential, and kicking survivors off your shedlings in one perk slot is insane, since most of the time you'd have to run a whole build to get all of these effects. But Friends to the End, once again, does it in one perk slot, and it does it all well. Oh, and one final note, if you need a build to try this out on, the 2 builds on screen will do wonders for you. And if you want more builds to try out on the Unknown, you're gonna love my next video.